My name is Christy Durbin, and I am the manager of a community-supported agriculture program at the University of Kentucky. And I work on the organic farming unit at the UK Horticulture Research Farm. So what is a CSA, or what is community-supported agriculture all about? It's a marketing model. Basically, we have members who buy in at the beginning of the season, and they get a share of vegetables and some fruits for 22 weeks. And they just get to partake in the seasonality of what is in season. And it's a lot of benefits for both consumer and farmer. So for the farmer, it's great because we get the funds for their share of produce up front, which helps us offset the costs of our inputs and our seed and our labor. And then they get all the benefits of the good, fresh produce that's also certified organic. So our CSA has around 225 members, and it's 22 weeks from end of May through the end of October. CSA is a really interesting way of marketing food and connecting eaters to food, but it certainly is not something that has gained acceptance across the board for all households. And I think one of the big challenges really about CSA is it's a huge challenge for the consumer to not only invest a large amount of money up front on the food, but to be willing to be flexible with what they're going to receive in their shares. I think there's a huge gap in food literacy in our country. And so when you think about presenting someone with a kohlrabi or a bunch of arugula or some braising greens, they might have no idea what those things are. So there's an education piece that has to go along with it of teaching people what to do with food and why it tastes good and all those sorts of things. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is just addressing food literacy and having customers be flexible to enjoy the food that they get. And then the other one is just seasonality is another kind of related issue, in that people like to get their tomatoes year-round, every week if they could, and you really can't get good tasting tomatoes in May, and you can't really get them either in October or November. So people being adjusting to enjoy foods when they're freshest and they taste the best. So we are kind of a unique farm, CSA farm, because we are connected to the university, and we have a student apprenticeship program as part of that. And so one of the wonderful things about this program is getting to spend time with students and help them really learn how to farm and learn how to enjoy the food and cook with the food. But that also comes with its challenges of inserting students temporarily into your workforce for small chunks of time. And so labor management really is one of the biggest challenges that we face, that I face personally, in terms of dealing with staff and students and engaging both of those groups and utilizing them to the best of their abilities and the best of their potentials. I don't feel like any day is the same. From day to day, everything's always different. And so that's a lot of benefits. And again, that's a challenge, because when everything is different day to day, you never really feel that you become an expert on anything. So I've kind of learned with grace to just deal with failure, and that's been a huge challenge when you do fail, but then also just to see it as a learning opportunity and plan for the next year. So, yeah.
My name is Ryan Cook. I'm the director of Seedleaf. I founded Seedleaf in 2007, so we're enjoying our 10th year in operation. And it came about as a side project. I was a little underemployed as a mental health professional. Also around that time, my wife and I had moved to the north side of Lexington and talked with a lot of neighbors who had diet-related health problems. So while on one hand we had there was a lot of interest in local food, so many of our neighbors were just priced out of that. So I was trying to imagine a chance for more people to get involved, and to have free U-Pick gardens seemed like a fun opportunity to share the good stuff that comes right out of the ground. So some of the struggles involved with community gardening, I think it's it has always felt a little odd for a lot of different reasons, but people will come in and wonder what's going on, and when I explain, or when my volunteers or staff explain, we're growing all these things together and anybody's welcome to come harvest it, there's just something peculiar about that, and maybe that's as it should be, but it seems like we have to be in a garden or in a neighborhood for 3 or 4 or 5 years before people kind of realize, oh, I see what's going on. This is something we can participate in. Community engagement has been very challenging. I've come to realize that I probably should have done a lot more listening earlier on, and asked the people living in these neighborhoods what would be the most beneficial thing. So more recently, we have a space on Smith Street where a lot of the sunniest area is not in gardens, but it's a open space where kids can play. The neighbors wanted a park, and so we do have some fruit trees on site there, but it's much more of an open, kind of a fun play space there. It's a challenge to count all the food that leaves, and we do our very best to estimate the pounds that are leaving the garden. But a lot of times, if we show up and somebody's harvested half the onions, this is a joy. Like, we're glad that it's gone. We now can plant something else in that row. But sometimes it's a challenge to know exactly what was harvested and when and how much. That's something that some grantors like to hear about, and we're starting to do better now about having accurate numbers about that. 100 years ago, Lexington would not have needed a seed leaf to show people how to garden and how to compost. That would have been common knowledge. So like any good nonprofit, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. I don't think it'll take 100 more years, but I dream of a day, when Seed Leaf does its last thing, everybody in Lexington who wants to would be able to have the knowledge and maybe the space to grow a garden. People would be more familiar with composting on a small scale, with minimal inputs. These are the kind of things that we would like to deliver, and then let Seed Leaf be composted into something else.